I want to play some audio, Sip, as we start. If I can get, there's the mouse.
Okay.
This is Tony White. Tony White today at his media availability talking about the defense's responsibility and Dylan Raiola. Bring that up for me, Nick. Thank you.
The freshman QB over there balling his ass off. You know what I mean? You scored 24 points. You need to help his ass. You know what I mean? So that's on the defense. You know.
Interesting. Bringing that up. And he's right. I mean, Nebraska, if they just averaged 24 points a game last year, would have won 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think, though, of that? I mean, it seems like there's been, as this season has gone on, a more concerted effort across the board from the leadership to point out, hey, man, you got this talented freshman who's doing this and doing that, and the rest of us got to carry the load.
To me, what it signifies is this sort of shift in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Quick shift. I mean, we're only 4 games in, and the conversation has become that the main reason for optimism is Dylan Raiola, and the main reason and optimism for Nebraska football is Dylan Raiola. Whereas going into the season, not that long ago, it was the defense, and that's if it was still that, we wouldn't be worried about Nebraska beating Purdue. But now we are. I mean, if you're smart, you are. There's still a lot of people that live in the past and think it's a walkover game and all that. But what's really transpired is fascinating if you could divorce yourself emotionally from it, which I don't have any problem doing. It's just a major shift. It's a major conversation shift. It's a shift in narrative that virtually no one anticipated.
What is and isn't fixable with the defense? Like what? Because right now you have a very concerned tone with how they have played, and so it makes me think that you see some stuff on that side of the ball that is going to be really hard to fix, whether it's this week or beyond.
You can fix tackling, and that's the good news. You can spend extra time on it and put emphasis on it. You can pull guys who aren't tackling well and replace them and hope you come up with something there. But you can work on tackling, and tackling with a concentrated effort can get better. So there's that. I mean, personnel's personnel. I think they're okay personnel-wise. At least it's hard for me to shift out of that mindset. I mean, I still think they're pretty good up front. But then you can fix Josh. I mean, they got out schemed.
Yes.
I mean, that's fixable. I mean, you can prepare better and make it so you're less apt to be out. Those things that can be addressed. It's not like they're devoid of good players. That's what can't be addressed. Not in the middle of the season. So, there's no reason to, at this point, panic. But they're one loss away from that. I mean, they're a loss to Purdue away from it. But let's see what it looks like. It's got to get better. They got to get better. It's not just a one-game thing. That's the thing I've been emphasizing. I saw the red flags against Northern Iowa. I came on your show and talked about it. The 3 points allowed was very misleading. They were getting pushed around, and the tackling wasn't good. So let's see what they do to address it.
Yeah, to me, and I know there's been a lot of emphasis on tackling, and I'm not denying that the tackling was great because it's not. It wasn't. But I think the out-scheming part that you just mentioned was more concerning. I mean, when you look at, you just go back and compare what kind of windows Dylan was throwing into versus what kind of windows that Altmaier was throwing into. Altmaier wasn't throwing into windows. He was throwing into abandoned warehouses. I mean, these places, his receivers were very open. And that, to me, was more concerning than anything else because all it took was just rolling him out of the pocket on occasion, and that seemed to flummox this group in ways that we haven't really seen a lot of in the last 16 games.
They were smart. The game plan was smart. And again, no surprise. It's Brett Bielema. He's as we covered last week. You just don't win. You don't win 3 straight Big Ten titles as a head coach. You don't fall into those, and he did it. So I expected them to be well coached. They were. Altmaier made good decisions with the ball. He should be credited a lot too. I mean, for instance, when Nebraska's doing some things on defense that are pretty blatantly wrong, that a layman can see. Their edge rushers getting way too far upfield, Prince Will and James Williams. And they took advantage of that a couple times. The thing that, John, you said the receivers running open concerns you most. The thing that concerns, the stat of the year so far is Illinois averaging 5.5 yards on 19 first down rushes. That's it's easily in my mind the most alarming stat. The fact that they had a chance to win is probably kind of a nod to what they did offensively and just being able to hang in there. But the defense has given up way too many long drives, even when they're holding teams to a field goal or just stopping them. They're still giving up long drives. At 5.5 yards a carry on first down against Illinois, what do you think that looks like against Ohio State?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Why?
They gave up 7 yards a carry. Is that where you're looking? Is that it happens to bad teams?
Sip, moving on from the defense, why has it been so hard to find a kicker? Because this is now. This is obviously not a this year problem. It's not a last year problem.
Problem.
It's a many year problem. And now it's starting to get into 2019 territory with how weird and goofy that one was.
Well, the injury to Alvano is obviously a factor in all this discussion. You thought maybe Alvano would come around and be the guy that you thought he was when he was recruited. So first of all, you have this injury that again cropped up last week on Wednesday. I guess Rule ruled out Tristan Alvano on Wednesday. So now you're looking at a first year player. It's a freshman, John Hole, who's never done it, who's got a pretty good leg, but he's not. I hesitate to say it this way. I can't think of saying it. Can't think of a way to kind of soften the land. He just doesn't look quite ready. He just doesn't look quite ready. Then they have operational problems. It's not just the kicker. They have these operational problems, guys. These are weeks in the making. That's not something that just cropped up.
Yeah.
Remember, they went in throughout the offseason. It was Camden, Kentucky was the long snapper, and there was really no competition. And then all of a sudden, I think it was before the Colorado game, Kentucky got the yips. See, now you got an operational problem because it's a problem because it affects the kicker's confidence, the punter's confidence, the holder's impact. And then lo and behold, what are we talking about against Illinois when the game's essentially on the line? There's a 39-yard field goal that should be about 90%. It should be about a 90% make rate. And they get a bad snap. Hold's not great. And it kicks off. Just all the stuff we talk about, all the stuff we kind of that causes consternation, and there's a reason for it. We saw it.
It's mind-boggling. You got a roster of 118 guys, and if you knew these were issues prior to the season or in the spring, it's like, man, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We see it all the time in the NFL. Long snapper goes down. What do? Bring in the backup guard. He comes in and
Kentucky was fine, John, in the spring. He was fine. He was fine in August. Cropped up. It only cropped up in recent weeks. So no, there's nothing. Now, I don't want to act like this is all just unique to Nebraska. Stuff happens in football. Josh is a Dallas Cowboys fan. What's going on with the Cowboys? Are you
bad?
A Cowboys fan? What's going on with them? It's some of it inexplicable, but some of it is just it's the human race. I mean, it's imperfect. It's imperfect in football. Stuff happens. How do certain teams end up with certain quarterbacks that just can't? Like all you got to do is look at the Miami Dolphins. How does this happen with the Miami Dolphins? They get one injury, and now they're looking at like a 4-win season. Really? It's that fragile? Why is it put together like that? Football requires a lot of things to go right, and there's a zillion things that can go wrong in football.
Speaking of things that went wrong, I wanted to get your thought on the 3rd and 3 call, and I wonder how much you think about that in like its own vacuum, and how much did the call on 4th down then cause you to maybe reevaluate what you thought of the 3rd down call?
Well, I mean, there's different ways to look at it, Josh. I mean, on 3rd and 3, I think the preferred way, and at least in my mind, to approach it is run it on 3rd down, run it on 4th down. I just think 3rd and 3, you should be able to get 3 yards in 2 run plays. Now, an opportunity on 3rd down presented itself that was a really good one, and we're not having a discussion if
exactly.
Dylan does what he normally does.
Yeah,
hits the pass. I don't mind if you're asking me, do you think they should have went for it on 4th and 3? I'm okay kicking it. I mean, even under the circumstances with this kicker, it's not that hard. 39 yards shouldn't be that hard for a Division I kicker. So I'm okay with it. It's probably what I'm telling you is I take a little more issue with not just running it twice, because I think that would have been the answer.
And how much of that was because they didn't feel they could run it twice?
Well, I wonder about that. Because now, John, they had moved the ball on the ground on that drive.
They had, but
Dowdell got tackled for a 2-yard loss on a play he went outside and probably shouldn't have. But otherwise, they ran the ball well on that drive.
They did, but that was probably the only drive outside. There were a couple other like 10-yard runs that they had, but I mean, just my 2 biggest concerns going into last week were, what was Nebraska going to do if it was tight? Because Illinois has been there, Nebraska hasn't.
Yeah.
And those guys that were there were from last year's team, and they lost all those games. And the second was, were they going to be able to run the ball when they needed to? And the answer to that question, sadly, was no, they couldn't.
Right. Then the whole I think the thing, I don't know if you guys talked much about it. I didn't talk much about it here in Lincoln. That Illinois was gunning for Nebraska. I didn't really take that into account as much as I should have. That loss last year in Champaign was Bielema talked about how it hurt them. And they came in here gunning for Nebraska, kind of like Nebraska was gunning for Colorado. And that's meaningful.
Yes.
It is meaningful. Revenge is a sort of an ugly term, and you don't like to talk about it that much, but it's real, and it can be effective in the sporting realm.
It certainly can, but I mean, it's not the only reason a team wins. But what it does mean is you as a program, and this is where I think part of where Matt's communication has been this week is, man, you guys gotta prepare for every game like everybody's gunning for you, because you just don't know where their motivation is going to be. You've got to be able to match that every single week, and that can be hard to do, but the good teams do it. I mean, Ohio State knows everybody on its schedule's gunning for it because they're Ohio State.
I know, but on the other hand, John, even Ohio State has let down.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Georgia just had a massive letdown and escaped against Kentucky.
Yeah.
Nobody's immune to it. I mean, that's why there's so many upsets. Notre Dame's a talented they have a lot of talent in that program. Inexplicably lose to Northern Illinois. They've probably taken the game as seriously as they should. So not unique. It's not, I don't regard it as unique. You try to avoid it the best you can. And I'm sure Rule made it clear to the guys, they're going to be ready for us, but you don't get through to everybody.
What's your lean in this game on Saturday? It sounds like you almost want to pick Purdue.
No, I don't want to pick Purdue, but I will not pick anything above 6-point win. I'm probably in the 32 to 26 range, something like that.
Wow.
Whoa. I think it'll be all they can do to get out of there is what I think. And I was right about Illinois. I mean, I knew there was a lot of people here saying easy game. Guys I work with, easy game. Now I said, no. This is going to be rough. It'll be. I think it'll be about as tough as this one.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you seeing? Is it more because you're concerned about Nebraska? Because what is it about Purdue that makes you go, oh boy, gotta look out for these guys?
Maccabee has come on, John. He's done it against Nebraska. He ran for 122.
Fair.
He ran for 122 yards 2 years ago.
Fair. Yeah. I'll hear that.
They're running the ball well. If you look at them, they're not. They've done damage on the ground, and that's where. Come on. I mean, if you and I, Northern Iowa, can do it. Why can't Purdue? Of course they can. I mean, Northern Iowa is not that good, brother. I mean, they went to Hawaii and got 199 total yards after getting 300 plus in Lincoln. All right, that Purdue can do it with Maccabee. And then on defense, they have one of the better defenders in the league. I think his name is Kydron Jenkins, who had 16 tackles last week against Oregon State. He had 4.5 PFLs against Nebraska last year. Okay, 4.5 tackles for loss against Nebraska. One game he had 4.5. All right, he can wreck things. I'm not doing this thing where I make Purdue sound like a top 25 team. They're not. But it's a road game against a team that can run the ball and against a team whose back's against the wall now. I mean, they have to win. So does Nebraska. But there will be a level of desperation, and it's Big Ten coaches and Big Ten players. I don't have to know too much more than that.
Man, I don't have that.
If this
same
is
feeling.
a dogfight, then the rest of the season is going to be.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's just a.
I don't agree. I don't agree, Josh. I think that you just have dogfights now for the rest of the season.
Sure, but I mean, honestly, let's just say for argument's sake,
S's and G's.
Somehow, Nebraska pulls it out in overtime last week. All the same warts that we've been talking about in the last couple of days would still be there. I mean,
but they're 4-0.
But they would be 4-0. Would people be? I mean,
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
Would folks be talking this way about how Purdue?
Yeah.
Oh my God, look out for Purdue!
Not with as much concern,
right?
But we were talking about it after Northern Iowa, and that was an easy win. But I was talking about it. I didn't like what I saw.
Yeah, you want to talk about something that I missed? It was that I just thought it was hangover after the Colorado game. In the end, they shut them down when they had to. They only scored 3 points. I wasn't thinking too much of it. I missed it. I missed it with the run defense.
But then you would agree that Rule right away, that last week, not this week, last week, said we didn't tackle well.
Yep.
White said we didn't tackle well. They got pushed around a little bit. They didn't take good angles. Guys were falling forward, which should have been 2-yard gains or a 5-yard gain. That stuff is very meaningful.
Yeah.
Especially against a team like Northern Iowa. UNI is a scrappy team. Anybody from Iowa would tell you that. They're scrappy. They're going to come for a scrap, and they did. And they sort of out-scrapped Nebraska. So my red flags didn't go up on Friday night. They went up on September 14th.
We got an email from Tim that says, Josh, congratulations on getting accepted in the Boston Marathon. I think that John, Steve Sipple, and Nick should definitely pay for you and your family to go to Boston. Sip, that's very kind of you.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
My Venmo is Josh Tweederson. If you'd like to send me a couple grand, I'll accept it. I'll be waiting for it. Thank you.
A couple grand.
I mean,
that would help.
It would help.
I can give you some lint.
Oh, perfect.
Why don't you make the most of it? Why don't you run to Boston?
That
wouldn't have to
I'd be
pay.
a little too tired. I don't think that'd prepare me for the race. I think it'd be too tired.
It would more than prepare you for the race.
Over prepare.
You'd be like running like 100 marathons to get there.
Bad.
How many people at the Boston Marathon can say that they ran from Nebraska to Boston?
Probably 0 of them.
Yeah.
Probably 0. Okay. I hadn't thought of that. Interesting. I'll put,
and it's free.
Maybe I'll think about that. Maybe I'll think
and it would
about
be free.
Maybe I'll think about that. It would be free.
Well, Sip, for a state's sake, I hope you're wrong.
Yeah. I've never wanted you to be wrong more.
I hope you're wrong, and Nebraska's not sweating it.
Hold on, I think they're going to win the game. Okay.
No. I mean, in terms of it, being very, very difficult.
Yeah, you're making for a long show for our coworkers on Big Red Overreaction.
Dog fight. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm expecting.